Show. This is an astronomy-based podcast that is devoted to discussing astronomical equipment, stargazing tips, observing reports, and equipment reviews. We don't focus on the science of astronomy. There are plenty of shows that do that. The focus of At The Eyepiece is the visual observers, those backyard stargazers that enjoy taking their telescopes under the stars, and those individuals wishing to join our ranks. After all, what matters to stargazers is what's at the eyepiece.
Well, good evening out there once again, my fellow backyard stargazers, and welcome to another live episode of At The Eyepiece. I am your host, John Kramer, and I'm going to be with you for the next 30 minutes live on the air. How this works is I am on Blog Talk Radio, if you happen to be catching the feed from the Blog Talk Radio page. And if you too want to go ahead and give me a ring, talk about anything astronomical equipment-wise, observing reports, equipment reviews, mini reviews, that is, you can go ahead and call in on the guest call-in number. Our guest call-in number is 760-454-1129. Hopefully I've got a lot of different windows going here. I can go ahead and catch you when you call in. And of course, if you're on Google Plus right now and you're catching my live Hangout feed, you too can go ahead and listen, of course, from that site as well. Something I'm trying to do a little bit more often is do some of the audio video too from the Google Plus Hangout. So in a way, I'm kind of simulcasting from there as well. Now, I hope you have had some great weather. Certainly here in Middle Tennessee, we've been blessed with some fantastic weather. Beautiful clear skies, seemingly very good transparency, and seeing hasn't been too bad either. Now, of course, just last night, this show is dedicated to discussing most of what occurred for the International Observe the Moon Night, which I sure hope you had the opportunity to go ahead and participate in yourself, or at least get a chance to view through some of the telescopes. We, as I said, have had some wonderful weather here, so of course I was able to go ahead and participate. Now, I wasn't able to get out and do any outreach locally, which I wanted to do, but I do have some family visiting here. So I did have the opportunity, however, to do outreach and to be part of a very special online event that was coordinated by, of course, CosmoQuest on their Hangouts. It was the International Observe the Moon Night, brought to us, I guess, by CosmoQuest, and we had a fantastic time going ahead. And that was, by the way, I believe a 24-hour event, if I'm not mistaken, that they went ahead and coordinated worldwide, had a number of amateur astronomers and real-life astronomers go ahead and participate on that event. It was a lot of fun. I got to share the views. I believe it was starting at about 7 o'clock local time for me, which I think was about 5 o'clock, I guess that would be, on the West Coast, where a lot of it is initiated from. But it was a great deal of fun. I was wonderfully blessed with some nice skies, had a beautiful time showing our closest neighbor out there in the sky, which is, of course, our moon. And if you're not familiar with what the International Observe the Moon Night is, it's an annual event. I'll read it here from their webpage. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can go to observethemoonnight.org/about and check it out yourself. Now, the International Observe the Moon Night team consists of scientists, educators, and moon enthusiasts, I like that, from government, nonprofit organizations, and businesses in the United States and across the globe. And certainly had that from the Google Plus Hangout. We believe in the inspirational power of the moon, a celestial body that has influenced human lives since the dawn of time. International Observe the Moon Night was created and giving the opportunity for people to take notice of the moon's beauty and share that experience with one another. the International Observe the Moon Night, we hope to instill the public a sense of wonderment and curiosity about our moon. Our partnerships enable us to stay up to date with the latest and greatest scientific discoveries about Earth's nearest neighbor, and we strive to bring those discoveries to the public. That's a quick run through of what the International Observatory, or International Observe the Moon Night rather, team is all about, and I sure hope you had the opportunity to go ahead and do a little bit of observing yourself. Got clear skies out there tonight. We do have a virtual star party kicking off a little bit earlier now that it's getting darker, a little bit more on the East Coast, a little sooner, of course, Central Time. It's still very, very dark, so I think they're going to be kicking off the virtual star party at 9:30 local time to myself, which is about, that would be 7:30 in Pacific time. And if you want to go ahead and find out more about that, simply go to cosmoquest.org/hangouts, and you too can watch the live events there. They also have a number of archived virtual star parties that you too can go ahead and catch up on, plus a number of archived events that they participate in, such as the weekly Space Hangout, as well as the Science Hour archive. So lots of great stuff from that organization. Plus, they have a lot of things that you too can be a part of as far as scientific contributions from the public to the scientific community there. They do moon mappers, ice investigators, and something really cool I need to look up a little bit on, Vesta mappers. Vesta, of course, is a asteroid that we have recently visited there as well. So, International Observe the Moon Night, every night can be, well, not every night, of course, you can't see the moon every night, but certainly as it's waning to being a full moon and a little bit after that, you too can go ahead and share your views with the general public, and I certainly encourage you to do so. At every single outreach event that I've been a part of, usually the biggest winner is actually the moon. You will be absolutely surprised by how many people have never gotten the opportunity to look through a telescope at the moon and literally be able to see the craters, mountains, and the valleys, and that just gorgeous, gorgeous view of the Terminator there. Last night, too, it worked out very well that I had the opportunity, as well as some of the other amateur astronomers there in the Hangout, to go ahead and share of a couple of lunar phenomena that are visual phenomena are really neat to go ahead and try to catch yourself. And these are the lunar X. And also, I learned something new last night, that there's also a lunar V, and we also got to see that for the first time too. So that was pretty cool as well. Now, these features only illuminated certain times, of course, and because of the particular angle of the sun and the illumination and the play of shadows, etc., right there along the Terminator, there can be some very, very interesting details glimpsed. And one of those, actually two of those, but we'll start with the lunar X, is a definite X-shaped pattern that you can clearly see, even with a small aperture telescope, right there on the edge of the Terminator. So, of course, last night for the International Observe the Moon Night, we had a lot of fun going ahead and sharing the view of the lunar X through a variety of telescopes, including my 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain that was broadcasting last night as well. A little bit more of a higher power view, but it still provided something really, really actually quite very happy with the view it provided last night for us. It was really, really great. Then we came up, one of the amateurs, and forgive me, I can't remember the name of the gentleman from last night, but he provided us with a description of the lunar V. And this was a pattern that was actually pretty easy to pick out visually as well. And I have my map brought up here, and figured I would go ahead and show you or tell you a little bit about that. If I am not mistaken, the lunar V was positioned just south of the Mare Vaporum, and I believe it was because of the region called Ukurt, that is UKERT, ERT, and that is just about the center, actually, of the lunar surface there, right there below Mare Vaporum. And it was very striking, very easy to make out that V. In my particular eyepiece view, it was more of a sideways shape, but still very, very easy to make out. And, of course, the lunar X there, those lunar X is made up of a number of interplays between the shadows and the brighter regions, and it is for the crater Purbach, P-U-R-B-A-C-H, La Caille, which is L-A-C-A-I-L-L-E, and I can't bring up the other crater, but if you do a search on those craters, you should be able to go ahead and see that phenomenon for yourself. And like I said, it usually is only visible during first quarter moon under favorable conditions for that to be lit up appropriately. And the other thing that was pretty neat was actually as the evening progressed, we also saw the shadows and the lunar X actually lose a little bit of its grandeur in the eyepiece, so to speak, because again the moon is rotating, or we're rotating rather, and the angle of the sun's changing, so you're losing a little bit of that illumination there. So that was pretty interesting, actually. I've never watched the lunar X actually for so long, probably well over an hour. I think the hangout lasted. And to see that, it was still a very, very interesting thing to check out. And I do encourage you, even if you have a smaller aperture telescope, you should go ahead out there and certainly try to visually capture yourself the lunar X. Now, just because we are officially done with the International Observe the Moon Night doesn't mean that we have to go ahead and not observe our closest neighbor and share that views with others. So I want to encourage you, continue to share your view of our closest neighbor with friends and family, neighbors, public outreach events, etc. And I have to go ahead and share some of the work that Richard Smith has been doing. Richard Smith is a very avid outreach person that lives up in Sparks, Nevada. I know him through Facebook, never met him personally or talked to him, but I follow everything that he does on Facebook. And I must say, he does both solar outreach, and I'm looking through some of the great photos that he was able to share here during the outreach events that he participated in up there in Sparks, Nevada. So really great job, Richard. If you happen to be listening, way to go with your outreach endeavors up there. Lots of great photos, and lots of people got the opportunity to go ahead and see the moon, maybe, probably, for the first time. So this was a worldwide event, and I'm already looking forward to the next International Observe the Moon Night, and so that we can go ahead and share those views with others. As I've said many, many times, the best opportunity, really, to observe the moon is when it's approaching first quarter or even full moon. When you have that extremely beautiful terminator, that's where the illuminated portion of the sun is, I'm sorry, of the moon, to the shadowed region of the moon. That area there gets to highlight all of the terrain features with the mountains, the valleys, etc. It really creates a beautiful visual landscape for you to go ahead and study and look through and enjoy. You can do that with a very small aperture. Even pair of binoculars will show you some of the beautiful craters there. Certainly as you go up in aperture, you are permitted to go ahead and kind of crank up the power, so to speak, a little bit more, and really go ahead and see and identify some of those interesting features there. Speaking of seeing and identifying, don't forget a program that I've talked about before here as far as learning particular craters of the moon and other features for the PC, and you know what, even for the Mac, you have the virtual Moon Atlas. that you can go ahead and download and install for yourself. It's absolutely free. And I tell you, I've had a lot of fun working through identifying lunar landscape features, craters, mountain ranges, valleys, seas, of course, etc., with the assistance of that program. Nice thing is if you have a small little laptop, you're outside with the telescope, you're observing the moon, so it's not really going to kill your night vision. So having the laptop there is really nice and convenient. Or you can also have one of your iPods here out there, or even one of your Android phones. You can even get applications now that go ahead and do that. So a lot of interesting programs exist out there to help you to identify, and that's one of the other things I want to encourage you here. Just participating in the International Observe the Moon Night, why not go ahead and learn a little bit of the very beautiful features on the moon? And you can do that, well, practically free with some of these programs. So that's a blast to do. Next time you're out and about at the eyepiece of the telescope and you happen to have the ability to get one of these programs, either to a laptop, iPhone, iPod, etc., Android phone, I really encourage you to do so. You will be amazed at how many interesting things that you can go ahead and track down on the moon. It is truly, truly something beautiful to look at. So yes, I had a lot of fun during the International Observe the Moon Night, and I might even be able to go ahead and share some more views tonight. We'll go ahead and see. Virtual star parties a little bit later on here from the Google Plus Hangouts, and I will try my best to go ahead and participate. If not, I will certainly go ahead and be back on there again, because that is a lot of fun to do. Now, let's go ahead and get back into some discussions here, talking about our astronomical equipment, and we'll go through a couple more things here as far as what's up for observing for this week. Now, I want to say thank you to everyone that has requested the audio tour of the month for September. Actually had some very good feedback on the audio tour. I'm so pleased to hear that. And don't forget, I'll remind everyone here that our audio tour of the month for September was focused mainly with carbon stars. And from that audio tour that you can listen to through the show archive here, we are also on iTunes. Many people go ahead and listen to the show from iTunes. You can go ahead and actually, if you have Sky Safari, which is a program for iPhone, iPod, iMac, or Macintosh, etc., that you can go ahead and load up the audio tour list, observing list for yourself from that program. Simply send me an email at theeyepiece@gmail.com, and I will forward you that observing list for you to go ahead and load up into your program. That way you can go out and you can spend time at the own telescope and follow along at the same time with that audio tour to go ahead and compare those views that you have with some of the views that I discussed from the audio tour. So I'm looking forward to going ahead and put together an observing tour here for the month of October. It might be a little bit late again, so I do apologize for that. Probably looking to be maybe the first week of October before release, but I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on that, and I do really sincerely appreciate the feedback that I get on putting forth that type of activity and putting forth the time into doing that. So it looks like a lot of people are enjoying it, and I'm certainly looking forward to that. I think what was the other audio tour of the month for August, I think, was globular clusters, some classy globular clusters. And that audio tour of the month can also be emailed to you if you are interested. At the same email, just request both or either one, and I'll be more than happy to go ahead and forward that along. And don't forget, if you work through those audio tours too, I would love to hear and share live on the air your observing reports as well. I mean, after all, that's one of the main reasons why we have the show here at the Eyepiece, is go ahead and talk about astronomical equipment, stargazing tips, observing reports, and equipment reviews. Now, speaking of some equipment reviews, I do have some things in the works for you. I'm going to go ahead and be talking about in the upcoming weeks. I'm going to be doing a review of a very economical eyepiece. I won't say it yet, but should be going ahead and purchasing that this week. I've always been interested in zoom eyepieces. I've heard a lot of people talk negative about them. Some people talk very favorably about them. I thought, what a great opportunity to go ahead and get one that is really more on the economical approach, because let's face it, that's pretty important to me myself. I would love to be able to get one of the higher up eyepieces out there, more premium, but I'm going to start with the lower end just to kind of get a feel for the zoom eyepieces and be sharing a review with you on that. Also, touched base last time, hydrogen alpha. You know, it was a couple of weeks ago, a little bit more than a couple of weeks ago, that I had the opportunity to look through some of the telescopes that Stephen Ramsden had set up at DragonCon in Atlanta. Stephen, of course, is the director of the Charlie Bates Solar Astronomy Project, for which I'm very proud to be an Outreach Club member for that. And looking through his hydrogen alpha telescopes certainly has gotten me the hydrogen alpha bug. And I have been just scrutinizing everything that I can read up on as far as some hydrogen alpha telescopes. And I must say, I'm pretty torn, actually, between going with the economical approach of, say, the Lunt Solar 35 millimeter scope, or the Coronado 40 millimeter scope, or going right on in there with, say, a Lunt 60 millimeter. They have two. They have a tilt tune and a pressure tune. So I'm still debating how far into that pool, if you will, of hydrogen alpha I want to go into. I've seen some superb images, just kind of blew me away. Some of the images and videos that people are putting out there, in particular from the Coronado PSC. They've been out there a long time. You know, they started out at, what, $4.99? Nowadays, you pick them up about $6.99. So no doubt they kind of upped the price, maybe for manufacturing costs, but probably because we're approaching or into solar activity, solar maximum now. And I've seen some superb images from these instruments out there, and would love to go ahead and check those out. So I'm going to hint too that maybe one of those hydrogen alpha telescopes will be here, offered as a long-term review, if you will, giving you the opportunity maybe to go ahead and call in through the show or even through these Google Plus Hangouts, right? To go ahead and look over the Coronado or look over whatever solar telescope that I decide to go with. Go ahead and look over, discuss, answer some of your questions. I thought it would be pretty cool if you have means of chiming in on the Google Plus Hangout chat room to say, how do you like the Finder? How do you like the focuser versus this one, etc., and get real-time interaction of a product right there live on the air. Internet's great, and I don't think anyone else out there is doing something like that. So I would really like to do that for my next offering, and I think I might try it for the hydrogen alpha telescopes. So I will keep you in the loop there. You know, they're pretty expensive when you go up to the 60 millimeter hydrogen alpha telescopes. You're looking at about $1,300 starting for those and going up. So it's a pretty difficult decision at my budget to try to do, but we'll see what we got. I think I'll be pretty happy with either one. And you know what? I can't wait to do outreach with one of those hydrogen alpha telescopes either. That and sunspots, really looking forward to doing some more with that. So let's talk a little bit more about what's going on our other closest neighbor here, the sun. let's go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the sunspots that are currently visible and will probably be visible here for at least the next week. We got about 10 minutes left here. No, I'm sorry, 20 minutes left here on the show. And I'll go ahead and drop off our guest call-in number one more time here, 760-454-1129. So let's go ahead and talk about the sun. There are a few good sunspot regions right now for you to go ahead and look at. I want to remind you, safety first. When we're always talking about observing the sun, you got to make sure that you have the proper safety equipment, such as a hydrogen alpha telescope or a white light filter. Make sure you have those things in place too. Never, never, ever, ever look at the sun with your unaided eye through a pair of binoculars or anything along like that. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the sun. And I'll go ahead and chime in over here and say hello to the return viewers guide there in the chat room. Hello there. They are in the chat room there for the Blog Talk Radio page. I'm just pausing for a minute to say hello to them. Now, we have a couple of great sunspots here. Active region 1575. This appears to be a very large sunspot group. There looks to be two primary sunspots there, very good size umbra, and in particular penumbra. So active region 1575 is certainly going to be your prime viewing target when you're looking at the sun. And it's well placed right now, just about midway through rotation. You have some other trailing sunspots, smaller ones that kind of trail back until you get to another interesting region, active region 1577. Now, active region 1577 is made up of smaller sunspots than 1575, but there probably is about 6 or more sunspots for this particular active region itself. So that has a lot of potential as well for you to go ahead and check out. Now, as you go a little bit lower than that on the sun's disk itself, you get to much smaller spots, and this is the active region 1576. Now, active region 1576 looks to be made of about 3 rather small sunspots there as well. So they might be a little bit more difficult for you to go ahead and see. I would say certainly if you had a pair of solar observing glasses, you would probably be able to make out 1575. It's that large on the sun. And you know what? I'm going to try to do that actually, because I got some fantastic glasses. The last time I saw Stephen Ramsden from the Charlie Bates. Let me get these out of here real quick. I just thought about that. Go ahead and share these for those of you that might be seeing us here later on in the Google Plus Hangout there. If you had some of these solar glasses there, you would probably be able to make out active region 1575 for yourself. 1577, probably not, but there does seem to also be some good regions perhaps coming in. There's a lot of plaque regions that I see off to the trailing side of 1577, so lots of opportunities still exist out there to go ahead and view the sun. Just remember to do that safely. Make sure you use a hydrogen alpha telescope or a quality white light filter. I would highly recommend never or advise against ever using those eyepiece filters that I actually had way back when I first started. I don't even think actually they probably give those out anymore, but just wanted to go ahead and make sure that folks knew probably not a good idea. Now let's go ahead and talk about some vendor news out there. What's going on in the world of astronomical equipment? Usually I like to go ahead and start out with a sad story rather. The Meade LX800s You know, I can't say that there's any good news coming from those right now. Looks like there's still a lot of frustration on the forums with, in particular, the way Mead actually is handling it. There doesn't seem to be any communications going on between Mead and the people that purchased the mount, at least from what we see here on the forums posts. No news on those. They've had them for quite some time. So I would really like to encourage Mead, somebody who works for Mead themselves, that happens to listen to the show, please go out there and communicate a little bit to some of the folks that are pending. You know, even people that haven't purchased the scopes. As amateur astronomers, we would really like to know too what's going on, because it shows that you care and it shows that you're interested. And if you don't communicate at all, well, it doesn't put you in a very good light, and this is a very unfortunate situation to begin with. So you should really look at this as an opportunity to change the way you communicate to customers and potential customers, and see if you go ahead and share a little bit about what's going on with these particular instruments and mounts. Now, some other, wow, unfortunately, news that I'm following here again with some other products here. In particular, the Mead LX80s. You know, when they were initially released, they were a pretty bright spot for Mead. I had read a number of initial first light reports that were very favorable to the products. Now, as we begin to go ahead and have more and more amateurs using them a little bit more often, in particular, switching from the alt-azimuth mode to the polar mode, or German equatorial mode rather, there seems to be a rather consistent nature of reports that are coming in with very poor performance with the scopes in the German equatorial mode. I've been reading a number of posts here from, in particular, Cloudy Nights that discuss the right ascension tracking errors, and also very recently here how there seems to be a lot of discussion from amateurs of the mount's inability to handle large weight, in particular to the German equatorial mode here. We're talking it's rated up to 40 pounds, I believe, and folks have offered their opinions that it doesn't seem to be able to support that type of weight up to that, in at least in the German equatorial mode, adequately enough for anything really other than visual. And of course, with the everybody practically is astrophotography day, or astrophotography today, of course these instruments are going to try to be utilized with astrophotography in mind. And, you know, like I said, people are reporting that the mount doesn't seem to be able to handle even half of that. I've read a number of posts. People said he isn't able to handle up to 20 pounds. So that, again, is not very good news for that particular offering for me, the LX80s. I really wish, I really wish that someone there with me can go ahead and turn this stuff around, because I, for one, I want to see me survive and be successful. And right now, gosh, it's my opinion that that's going to be pretty challenging for them to do. Now let's turn a little bit into a little bit of a brighter spot here. And I knew this was going to be happening, actually. I was actually kind of surprised that someone came out with it as quickly as they did. And that is an option of the Mead LX80 as far as a mount that permits dual axis for alt-azimuth as well as German equatorial. And the people that have done it appears to be Skywatcher. They have the alt-azimuth EQ6 go-to mount. Now, from what I could tell, these mounts are only available in Europe right now. However, there's still some possibility of seeing those here, Probably not before the end of the year, I would imagine, but it certainly looks to be a very substantial looking mount. No doubt, because they're offering it at a price point double what the LX80 is, and that looks to be about $2,000 US. But I will tell you from the images that I see from this mount that it looks very substantial, very beefy. It looks more like a traditional German equatorial mount, but obviously just engineered to facilitate dual alt-azimuth, or single alt-azimuth telescope, dual alt-azimuth telescope, and flip it up to being a German equatorial mount as well. Certainly, I know the EQ6 mount has a pretty good following of people out there. They're very, very accurate as far as their go-to, and their tracking performance has been pretty good from the reviews that I've seen. So they could have a very, very solid offering here for us over here in America, hopefully very, very soon. And yes, I realize $2,000 is double what the LX80 currently is, but for those individuals that have larger aperture instruments, might very well be something that they want to go ahead and look at and look for. Now, of course, I'm pretty certain that Celestron, nothing official, of course, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Celestron might come out with as well in that particular offering. One more final thing, of course, I was very excited for the Meade LX600s. Not much has been said about those either, unfortunately. And I'm sure Meade right now is dealing with what they can deal with as far as trying to get these LX800s out there and back into the hands of owners. They desperately need to do that, and they need to encourage people to get the instruments operational and put it out there on social media sites such as YouTube, Twitter, everywhere that they can to get some positive aspects to the utilization of these mounts. So I really hope and encourage them to do that. Now we are winding down. We have just about 7 minutes left for this week's episode of At the Eyepiece. And I want to go ahead again and encourage you, every night where the moon is out could be your International Observe the Moon night for yourself, your local club. I encourage you to go ahead and share that view with others. This, I realize it's down the road here quite a bit, but Halloween is a fantastic opportunity to go ahead and do astronomical outreach. I did it last year here for the moon. I believe it was a crescent, and everyone had just a fantastic view of that. This year it's going to be very, very close to being full at Halloween, so you still get a great opportunity to do a wide shot there of the moon itself, and I encourage you to go ahead and do that. What a great opportunity. If you have other events here or other things that you participated in from your local International Observe the Moon night that you would like to go ahead and share or let me talk about on the show, feel free, send me an email at theeyepiece@gmail.com, and I will go ahead and share that on our next episode. Now, our next episode here that will be live on the air is going to be October 7th. Remember, we are doing a live show every other week, and we're also keeping the shows between 30 minutes and 45 minutes long. We're not going to do our hour-long format. We're not going to do it every single week, just because, well, we're doing our the Sunspot Weekly, which is a new video series that I'm trying to put together that obviously is devoted to just talking about the sun and interesting sunspot activities or anything related to solar astronomy. And, of course, the virtual star parties every single Sunday I try to participate in as well, and the audio tours of the month that we go ahead and try to put out. So hopefully between all of those activities here, you certainly can go ahead and get your fill of something interesting here at the Eyepiece. So with that, we are going to call tonight's show a wrap. I hope you can go ahead and tune in again on October 7th. And like I said, on October 30th or close to but let's say between the 30th and the 7th, your October audio tour of the month should be posted up there for you to go ahead and follow. And if you want that observing list, just send me an email at theeyepiece@gmail.com. Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope to see you next time at The Eyepiece.
Thank you for listening to this episode of At The Eyepiece. If you would like to participate in a future show as a featured guest, or perhaps you have suggestions for future show topics, send me an email at theeyepiece@gmail.com. Check out our blog at theeyepiece.blogspot.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. Just put in a search for At The Eyepiece. I'd like to thank George Wood for his bumper and exit music. This is 8-Bit Junkie, and we obtain that from podsafeaudio.com. So here's wishing all of you plenty of clear skies so that we can all talk about it next time at The Eyepiece.